Welcome back to Let's Play Super Mario Brothers, and in this part we have trivia, but before that, a little history lesson. Because nowadays Mario is this big icon, he's often referred to as the face of gaming, but how exactly did that all start? Well, during the early 80s before this game came out, the gaming market was kind of in a dark place. Any idiot thought they could make a game without putting any effort into it, and therefore we had a lot of bad games. Nintendo needed something to revive the home console market, and as a result the side-scroller was created. It was the first game where the screen actually moved. It seems like a very basic thing nowadays, but back then it blew your fucking mind. So now they had an innovation ready, but people don't always have eye for that sort of thing, so we need an icon to paste over it. A face, something that's marketable, something we can put in commercials and make toys out of. Luckily, Nintendo already had a very popular arcade game by the name of Donkey Kong, and this had a main character, a little plumber man by the name of Jumpman. So they used him, made a game that was revolutionary and essentially reopened the home console gaming market. And now, almost 30 years later, we are here, in a day and age where I feel the need to complain about new Mario Brothers 2 on a daily basis. But now it's time for trivia. For example, was they called Jumpman? Where did the name Mario come from? Well, they needed a more iconic name than Jumpman, and Mario looked a lot like the man who was the landlord of the Nintendo building at the time, and his name was Mario Segali, so they said, fuck it, name him Mario. More behind the screen trivia, the first Mario game was actually co-developed with the first Zelda game. They tried to make these two games very different from each other, so where Mario became the very straightforward platformer, Zelda became more of an open world adventure type game. Or when they had an enemy design, they decided, does it look more cartoony? If so, put it in the Mario box. Does it look more medieval fantasy type-ish? Put it in the Zelda box. And thus two games were created. Anyway, we have a few new enemy types. First is the bullet bills. They shoot out of cannons, and in some levels they keep respawning from off screen. You can jump on them, but when they hit you from above, you take a hit. But in this level we also saw the Hammer Brothers, and those are definitely the most annoying enemies in this game. They usually come in duos, they don't move around that much other than jump up and down once in a while, but they throw hammers at you and they throw a lot of hammers at you. So the series of hammers usually leaves a very small window of opportunity to get past them. I don't even recommend trying to jump on them, because usually right before you hit them, or right as you hit them, they still throw one more hammer at you and you take a hit. But that actually reminds me, I've yet to bring up another way to kill enemies, and that is by... There are blocks that if you hit them from below, you, well, hit the blocks. But if an enemy happens to be standing on that block, you will kill the enemy. Even if you're small Mario, don't break the block, even moving the block will kill the enemy. So that's the most efficient way to get rid of Hammer Brothers, if you can get underneath them, which can be a bit troublesome sometimes. So yeah, fuck Hammer Brothers. In fact, before the final time you have to jump over Bowser in the final castle of this game, there's like this one Hammer Brother that always gets in your way, and people usually treat him like he's the final boss. I can see why, because getting past that enemy is actually harder than getting past the final Bowser. And there are no fire flowers in the final level either. There are fire flowers in the level before the final level, so if you manage to get that and hang on to it, you can kill that one final Hammer Brother at the end really easily. So we're now in the castle. And this castle has the exact same layout as the first castle in the game, but just with more fire bars. Or maybe it was the second castle. Anyway, there are also enemies exclusive to the castle levels, and those are the Potobos, little fireball enemies that jump out of the lava. Though it's kinda hard to treat them as enemies, seeing how they're more so stage hazards, and it's kinda hard to see them as anything that's alive. Oh, and there are also underwater exclusive enemies. Well, unless you count the bridge levels, which has Cheep jumping out of the water. But, well, there are the Cheeps, which are little fish things that sort of mind their own business. They're pretty much the underwater Goombas. And fun fact, they're actually called Cheep because they have little bird faces, and birds go like cheep, or whatever, I don't know. And underwater we have also the bloopers, which are like fucking underwater Hammer Brothers, because they can just move so much better than you do underwater. And those squid things chase you the fuck down. And we have Lakitu and Spiny, we've seen those before, and this is a bridge formation. Why do I feel like pointing those out? Because if there is a Koopa Troopa or a Buzzy Beetle walking on those, you can do the 1-up glitch. The 1-up glitch, every time you jump on an enemy, you essentially score combos if you keep jumping on enemies before hitting the ground. The score will go higher and higher, but eventually when you combo enough enemies, you will actually start gaining 1-ups. So the way the 1-up trick works is that Well, first of all, you need the staircase because one, you need to be on a slightly lower level, and second, the turtle shell needs something to bounce off of. So the turtle shell will keep bouncing back to you, you can keep jumping off of it, and your score will go up and get 1-ups and 1-ups. And apparently Nintendo thought it was so iconic, they put it in, I think, almost any Mario game where you can do so. But what's exclusive to 8-bit Mario 1 and 2 is that the game will actually glitch out after a while. So instead of showing the normal number graphics, it will show all kinds of other graphics. You might get life, number, part of a castle, part of a cloud. I don't do it in this playthrough, but I'll make sure to make an extra video where I'll show off the 1-up trick. Also in the 8-bit games, the max number of lives you can get is 255. If you go above that, it will reset back to 1. The number 255 is actually a number that comes up a lot in mostly old video games, but I think Pokemon still uses it. The reason it's 255 is because that's the maximum amount of information that one byte can contain. I'm speaking computer speak right now, so don't care if you don't really understand. Actually, it's not 255, it's technically 256, but because you also have to count the number 0, it ends up being 255. Because, well, Mario, for example, can have 0 lives, so that essentially takes up the 256th spot. I have a bit more time for my final pieces of trivia. Another graphical glitch that can occur is when you're Big Mario, you can find fire flowers, obviously. But if you get hit and get turned into Small Mario before collecting the fire flower, you will actually become Tiny Mario, but with fire flower colors when you collect the fire flower. Once again, I'm of course talking about the 8-bit version, not the 16-bit remake that you're looking at on screen right now. And my final bit of trivia is that in the original drafts, the coins that you're collecting are actually fruits, but they thought people don't want to collect fruits. What is something that everyone wants? Money, of course! So they changed the collectible fruit to collectible money, or coins rather. Whatever the currency of the Mushroom Kingdom is. Mushroom dollars, mushroom coins, Koopa coins, coupons. Anyway, we're now in the castle of World 6, so that means Bowser's now gonna start throwing hammers when we get to him. Just like Hammer Brothers. Though Hammer Brothers are still the bigger threat because Bowser is a bit more predictable. Also, I think this level layout is another rehashed level layout, even though I thought we started doing maze castles, but apparently we're not. I could have sworn there were more maze castles in this game. I know the next two castles are mazes, but I don't know, I guess I was wrong, but I could have sworn there were more. Also, Bowser portrait in the background. I like that. In the original, the background was just a black void, and I don't like that. And graphical updates. I already had this rant in part 2, so I see you next time in part 4. See you then. And what the fuck, a canoe? I'm sorry, but what's with the fucking canoe? How did they get it in the back? How?